And we start this hour with that breaking news, a big win for gun rights advocates. The Supreme Court has just struck down a ban of bump stocks. The devices allow semi-automatic rifles to fire more quickly, similar to a machine gun. The Trump administration banned bump stocks after the 2017 Las Vegas shooting that killed 58 people. It is the deadliest shooting in U.S. history, and that shooter used bump stocks on some of his weapons. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court now ruling semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks are not machine guns. That decision down in the last hour, and now the Biden-Harris campaign just issuing the statement, which reads in part, quote, "Weapons of war have no place on the streets of America, but Trump's Supreme Court justices have decided the gun lobby is more important than the safety of our kids and our communities." Meanwhile, the Trump campaign also just coming out with this statement to NewsNation saying, quote, "The court has spoken and their decision should be respected. President Trump has been and always will be a fierce defender of Americans' Second Amendment rights, and he is proud to be endorsed by the NRA." Let's bring in our panel on this. We have Republican strategist Whitley Yates and Democratic strategist Laura Fink, founder and CEO of Rebel Communications. Welcome, both of you. Laura, let's start with you. How does the Biden administration saying weapons of war have no place on American streets, how does the campaign use this ruling in its campaign going forward?
Well, we saw also, I don't know, this weekend, the Sandy Hook children graduated from high school, those that survived that mass shooting. This is yet another contrast of how President Trump would be in office versus Biden. Gun violence and gun safety is at the top of voters' minds for whom that is their number one issue. And there are many of those. So this puts it front and center. And President Trump is out of step with the vast majority of Americans that want to see reasonable gun safety restrictions. So this is just another example of how Donald Trump really does have more extreme policy positions than the voters he's looking to secure votes from. So the Biden campaign can make that clear to voters as these decisions come down.
Whitley, over to you on this. We see the Trump campaign saying that this ruling needs to be respected. This is despite it being a ban that happened under his time in office. How does the Trump team navigate this ruling?
You know, I think it's very wise of him to say that it is important that we do respect the Supreme Court. And counter to what my colleague was just saying, the truth is that this went into action underneath Trump. So to say that he's not protecting not only Americans, but those who have been, victims of the bump stocks and those who perpetrate these types of crimes is just nonsensical. But the truth is that the Second Amendment right shall not be infringed. And so people's right to not only carry arms, but whatever arms they so choose shall not be infringed. Our Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. And so SCOTUS deciding this and staying on par with the Second Amendment seems right and in alignment with our Constitution.
Laura, how much do you think issues like the Second Amendment plays into the minds of voters coming up?
I think it increases the intensity around certain groups. I mean, I think with respect to this one, some of the people that might be on the fence or who are sort of dissatisfied with both candidates, and there are a swath of voters, people like young people. This is something where the young people that will be voting in this election had to do drills on duck and cover and had to do live shooter drills in their schools. Safety and growing up with that insecurity is something they have not known in America where they felt safe in schools. And so that could be a driving force and galvanize a lot of those youth voters that may be thinking about Donald Trump, but see and hear the position that is truly untenable in terms of not being clear. So we banned bump stocks, but now the Supreme Court that Donald Trump appointed made the right decision. You don't want to take any action on any sort of gun safety like background checks and closing the domestic violence loophole. I think it puts it front and center so that Donald Trump really does have to show his cards. If he believes in the Second Amendment, to the exclusion of any sort of reasonable restriction, that means we're going to have that discussion. And that discussion benefits Joe Biden, particularly with those groups, like I said, young voters that are on the fence for whom this may just look too extreme for them to punch the ticket for Trump.
Interesting. Whitley, same question over to you.
I think it's really interesting. We're talking about the weapon and we're not talking about the root cause, because the truth of the matter is these weapons and how they are being used are not new, but it's the people that have changed. It's the mental health of the people who really need to change. And so we're looking at the weapon as opposed to the root cause.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.